It's now time for us to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from all around the world. Of course, we begin here at our home base with our own This Day newspaper. This Day is leading today with the story about Tinubu inaugurating 30 CNG buses to ease transportation. Of course, we took a deep dive into this at the start of the program as we were talking about the launch of the 30 buses. And this is part of a larger rollout that should be taking place over the next couple of years, of course, celebrating the inclusion of Innocent Motors and other Nigerian companies, Nigerian Assembly, into this. So that's some good news, and hopefully, all things being equal, when you use a CNG, when you convert to CNG, I believe that the price per litre should be 250 naira when you're refilling your tank. So if that can be done on a wider platform, that would be fantastic news. All right, so well, inside This Day newspaper, of course, every Tuesday we have the lawyer insert, and that's where we're going to today. And the lawyer insert is focusing on the End Bad Governance protest. Of course, always a pleasure to read from Ms. Onikepo Braithwaite, and today is no different. She's leading beautiful and capturing image there of the takeaways from the End Bad Governance protest. And just to take a quote from the write-up and the analysis, it says, "Poverty and hunger have no tribe or race. Everyone suffers when they have no food to eat, even animals too. But one thing the hashtag EBG has certainly been successful at is showing that Nigerians can no longer be taken for granted by government. The youth have started to demand accountability, and this is a good outcome, because without accountability in governance, Nigeria will continue to regress." I know some people can even argue that the showing that we saw yesterday of those 30 CNG buses, fine, it's just 30, but at least we're starting to see progress in the right direction. So it is an indication that there was something positive. The demands of the protesters may not have been met, but we're starting to see some momentum picking up in the right direction. So that's inside today's This Day newspaper, the lawyer insert. Now from there, we'll go to Vanguard newspaper. And Vanguard is focusing on the economy and stresses distress as harsh economy forces shutdown of over 50 firms. So this report says that over 50 firms in the chemical and non-metallic product subsector are facing a dilemma as they are shutting down. These are companies that produce medicals, pharmaceuticals, perfumes, cosmetics, toiletries, and so far over 100,000 workers have been laid off. So this is scary news, and it's not, kind of juxtaposed to where we're coming from with regards to accountability, what is being done with regards to interventions for this economy when huge corporations like this, in this report is GSK, Unilever, they're all reported there. And because they're shutting down or trimming down, and there's massive layoffs happening there. Now to the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian reports that the federal government may miss 2025 target as 136 million Nigerians lack internet access. So Nigeria ranks 88th on the digital quality of life. And this report says that 57% of internet users in Nigeria are still using 2G. I mean, that is absolutely shocking. They also give an analysis, and they say that insecurity is playing a large role in the differential between internet penetration in the north and in the south. But the question is, how long are we going to hide behind insecurity as an excuse for some of the developmental lapses that we need to see being made? So 2025 target of, increasing Nigeria's internet penetration, the Guardian is saying highly unlikely. All right, now let's, still on the front page of The Guardian, they also take a look at developments in Edo State, as yesterday we saw Philip Shaibu resume as Edo State Deputy Governor. That's a story that we've followed here closely on the morning show. And he was able to make it into his office yesterday. So that's quite a development. And we'll be looking to see developments from Edo State as, of course, things start to heat up with regards to the election. Now, to Punch newspaper. Punch is focusing on all issues concerning that Supreme Court ruling on local government autonomy. The headline, FG governors reach 3-month agreement on LG allocations. What's going on? Well, local government autonomy moratorium is happening over concerns arising from the autonomy of local government from its impact on salary payments and operational viability. So Punch did an investigation and they found that the last FAC payment did not reflect the Supreme Court ruling that LGAs are supposed to be getting their payments directly into their accounts. Now, of course, some local government chairmen are already crying foul, and they're saying that there's a conspiracy between some of the state commissioners of finance and the governors. However, Minister of Finance Wale Adun has attributed the lack of payment to what he's calling practical impediments. And they're saying that they will need about 3 months to get the structure up and running so that we can see those payments begin to go into the accounts of local governments. Also, on the front page of this day, marketers are projecting 600 naira per litre for Dangote petrol. So this takes us back to this conversation we continue to have around the price of PMS and the high price of PMS and what the true price of PMS should be. So marketers here are saying that it's highly likely that Dangote Petroleum will be retailing at about 600 naira per litre, which is not good news because people are hoping for a price crash, and what was sold to us was a price crash. Well, you know, that's the developments on that sector. Let's go to Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust is focusing on the flooding that has killed 7 in Jigawa and Kebbi State. But also on Daily Trust at the top are there stakeholders who are calling for a probe of how the 9 billion naira for the Olympics was spent. Important conversation to be had. Again, in the spirit of accountability, we saw the outcome, we saw the results. Of course, the minister has apologized and said he didn't have time. However, the truth of the matter is that 9 billion was spent. Where did it go when some athletes didn't even have bicycles? All right, we're still looking at the Olympics, but now let's shift to Kenyan newspapers. Let's go to Daily Nation newspaper in Kenya. And Daily Nation is leading with a headline that says, "Scandal of Kenya's athletics talent drain." Now, excuse me. Now, this is a very big and concerning story because it shows us that the corruption in sports administration is not just peculiar to Nigeria. It's happening over there in Kenya. But this report details how administrators in Kenya have started working as local agents to lure junior athletes to other countries. We spoke about how so many African athletes are now representing other countries. Well, guess what? In Kenya, it's the administrators who are now posing as agents so that young Kenyan athletes can go and represent countries in the Gulf, in the United States and Europe and so forth. Very, very, very tragic. And I do hope that, this expose is able to fish out some of the bad players there. Of course, Kenya was still able to do relatively well at the Olympics, but still, so devastating to hear that this is how we invest in our talent. Very quickly to Business Day South Africa. Business Day South Africa is leading with stories on sex trafficking. They say South Africa's sex trafficking rages on. And this report is about how women from Lesotho are being brought in to work in South African brothels and how, again, corruption, the officials on the South African side and on the Lesotho side are responsible for this huge sex trafficking ring that's currently flying under the radar. Now, very lastly, before we go, let's take one international paper to the Daily Telegraph, just to re-emphasize a story that is currently one of the leading global stories that is on the front page of the Daily Telegraph, which is about Keir Starmer warning Iran no attack on Israel. Of course, we've already unpacked that in detail, but so much going on in the world. Rufai Ayo, over to you.
So I want to tie Kenya and Nigeria together as regards questions centered around the Olympic. Why do we have constant scandal of corruption? The Kenyan authorities must be able to answer. Why is it that they are the ones now, rather than develop their talents for Kenya, are the ones now acting as middlemen to ensure these talents go to run for other countries? Because at first that's betraying the national interest. And you see, all of that also just, reinforces the reason why people are protesting in Kenya. The system is really very warped. No matter what you might have said about Kenya, some of the progresses they've made. And we also tie it to here. with all of the money spent, 9 billion. Yeah, some people argue that, oh, that's a flash in the pan. That's not enough money, that you need more money and all of that. But with all of the resource deployed, we still have many instances that we fall far below. Instances of clerical error. So the question is, can we even just give Nigerians a line item how the money was spent in the first place? And as regards companies shutting down, this is not the first time it's happening. Most of the top multinationals, GSK and the likes, Sanofi, we saw how gradually they winded things down. And that also led to the increase in the price of drugs. And what are they complaining? All their complaint is centered around the two policies President Tinubu made that has become the albatross: flotation of the naira, removal of subsidy. And those are the challenges. So how we can quickly fix it, the better for us.
All right, okay, so great column or article by Onikekbo Braithwaite of The Advocate in this day newspaper. I think it's important to not just let the 10-day protest by young people, largely young people in Nigeria, just go without continuing to evaluate the success or, in terms of some of the things that it asked the federal government to do. I love that she broke down some of the low-hanging fruits. And sometimes I was like, the guy on Instagram that says, it's so simple, but it's not as simple as it looks. And I love that she says that it's not a straightforward answer to ask as to whether or not the protests are successful, because some of the things that the young people asked for would take a long-term approach. But some of the low-hanging fruits, number one is with regards to hunger, looking at the disproportionate way that it affects the North and the South, and seeing that we have a big challenge on our hands, especially if we don't tackle insecurity, so that farmers can go back to their farms. Also, talking about, with regards to, she mentioned a few things around just being able to, the removal of fuel subsidy, talked about the cut in governance, in cost of governance, talked about the reshuffling of the cabinet, which we talked about. I haven't heard anything about that yet, especially for non-performing ministers. And these are easy things that the president could do to show. But thankfully, we have a Council of State meeting happening later on today, and hopefully that can address some of the concerns of the End Bad Governance protests. Well, thank you very much, Vimbai and Rufai, for analyzing today's newspapers from around the world.